Ready to go?
Are you good?
Okay. Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to Council Monday, May the 11th, 2020. Called the meeting to order at 12 p.m. So I'm going to do a quick roll call as we are now doing our council meetings by teleconference. So Councillor Zingra.
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Lake.
Present.
Councillor Debussy.
Present.
Councillor Valance.
Present.
Great, thank you very much and welcome. So I have a motion here to accept the agenda for, well actually, is there any deletions to the agenda this afternoon? Hearing none, I have a motion here to accept the agenda for Monday, May 11th, 2020, regular meeting of council as circular amended. This was moved by Councillor Lake and seconded by Councillor Zingra. No comments? Hearing none, I call the question. All in favor? Assuming all good? Thank you. Okay. Any disclosure of interest? Hearing none. I do have a motion here that council hereby adopts the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on Monday, April 27th, 2020, and the closed meeting of council was held on April 27th, 2020 as circular amended. This was moved by Councillor Zingra, seconded by Councillor Lake. Any questions, errors, or omissions from anybody? Okay. All in favor is good. Thank you. Okay, up next we have a report, verbal update report on the COVID-19 pandemic situation from the CAO. Mr. Skrzynski.
Thanks, Your Worship. So just a brief update for Council and the public today, May the 11th, with respect to the COVID situation in Marathon. So at the current time, there are 0 confirmed cases in Marathon in our immediate surrounding area. Our emergency control group continues to meet every second day municipally. Administration is in the process of developing plans for the opening of municipal recreation facilities. This is obviously in line with what the province announces as part of its reopening framework. And what administration is currently working on includes new operating guidelines for things such as social distancing, standard operating procedures for sanitizing and disinfecting high-touch surfaces. So currently plans for parks, Penn Lake Campground, and Peninsula Golf Course are being developed by administration. As of May the 9th, hardware stores are able to reopen to in-store customers. Other establishments are able to open with online and curbside pickup starting May the 11th. The notice was posted on the weekend from the province that provincial parks will open on May 11th for day use activities with social distancing rules in effect. And today we have our weekly community update call with Beektagong, Pickmotor First Nation, and the North Superior Healthcare Group. So happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions of Mr. Skrzynski?
I have a couple.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Lake.
So, I mean, obviously the best news is that there's 0 confirmed cases in our immediate area. That's wonderful that we can start to talk about opening up, and also really excited to hear that the municipality is looking at opening some of those facilities. The ones that the questions that are kind of top of mind for me are, so with the parks opening Nays and White Lake for day use area, are we looking at, for something like Pebble Beach and Carden Cove and Penn Lake, offering that same kind of opportunity? Is that what you envision, where there's, you know, that opportunity to picnic, to hike, as long as there is the social distance rules, or does that not make as much sense for a municipality?
Those areas are still currently closed under the provincial order. Beaches, outdoor picnic area, and outdoor recreation areas. We did review those this morning, and part of our plan will be to look at reopening those facilities within the municipality when we're given the go-ahead by the province. So we'll certainly be ready to do that. I think one of the changes that the public will likely see is a slower opening of high-touch areas, even if the province allows it. Advanced disinfecting and sanitizing takes obviously more manpower. And we're working through split shifts right now with our outdoor staff to get that social distancing practice in place. So we'll open up as the province allows, but likely with restrictions, but we'll still allow people the opportunity to get outdoors.
So in Council
and maybe a follow-up, if I could.
Yeah, Council Lake, just for clarification,
Okay.
Council Lake, Carden Cove and the boat launch were both open with restrictions last week, as we know. So they are open and available to the public with restrictions. So we did open up 2 last week.
No, that was my follow-up was going to be because we did open up, especially the boat launch. What kind of uptake are we seeing from the community? What kind of lessons are we learning, and can we apply them? And then the other thing that I'm a little unfamiliar with is, so why are parks like Maze able to open to offer things that they're not allowed in the municipality? That seems like a bit of a double standard coming from the province, or am I just not understanding the regulation properly?
No, that is the regulation. We addressed the same question in our emergency control group meeting this morning. We're not quite sure why the province gave the go-ahead to open up provincial parks. We re-looked at the legislation with respect to outdoor recreation areas, and that hasn't changed. Although it does seem that there are some municipalities that are starting to move ahead with opening parks areas. But it's a bit unclear as to why there's the difference between the two. So we intend at our next emergency control group meeting midweek to re-look at this item ahead of the long weekend.
So, and also another response to that, Council Lake, and all councillors and for the public, is here's where you start to get the confusion with the province open up partially or portions of the province. So the parks are definitely open, but they're open only for walking in the parks right now. Beach access and other things within the parks, camping, washroom facilities are not open. So the message is not being totally relayed. It's all in the actual release, but most people are not reading the release. They're only reading the headline, which is the parks are open. The reality is they're really not open. They're open for walking trails. That's about it. So, as Councilor or CEO Skorczynski mentioned, we will visit it next couple of days in the management control group to have a better, clearer understanding of what we can do here, if anything at all. Any other questions on that?
Yes, I have.
Okay, good.
So, Councilor Gingras first.
In regards to the boat launch, I had questions from residents about the signage not being clear. So there's one sign there that says something like nobody allowed at all, and then there's another signage about fishing. So if someone could just make sure that signage is more clear about who's allowed down there.
Yeah, that was discussed this morning at the Emergency Management Control Group, so maybe there's some wording we can change in regards to signage. So it's just that the park is closed to the general public, but allowing anglers to go. So that could be maybe more clearly identified within the signage. Thank you for that. Anybody else?
Okay, thank you.
Sure, one more.
Okay, Council Lake.
Yeah, this one is more probably just for the general public, and it may be unanswerable right now, but I just know that the general feeling is people are obviously nervous to go out, but excited to get out and get into the outdoors. Nobody wants to break the law. What if you had to sort of crystal ball, CAO, a timeline around when you think certain facilities will be available to people? And I know that's a pretty imprecise science, but if you had to say, when you think things will be available and what will be available, what's your thinking in terms of where we're headed?
It's certainly a valid question. I think it's one that administration will politely choose not to answer, because I don't want the public to get any preconception on reopening plans. I think the most confident way that administration can state our answer is that we obviously monitor the provincial responses on a day-to-day basis. We adjust our plans in line with those. So as soon as the province makes the announcement that we're ready to open provincially, then the municipality will be ready to open. And I think a prime example is the golf course. So last week, Doug Ford did announce that golf courses can prepare for the upcoming season. Anybody who's drove by the golf course, because they're not obviously allowed to drive in, will see that we're actively preparing the course to be ready for opening. So I think it would be misstated if I actually provided an actual timeline when we thought they would reopen, other than to say that we're monitoring things daily, and when the province makes the announcement that municipalities can reopen parks and golf courses, then Marathon will be ready.
Good,
You
thanks.
know, and I appreciate that, Mr. CEO, because I think what some people don't understand is that municipalities are creatures of the province, and that we really do take our marching orders from Toronto. So, you know what, you hear people saying the town is doing this or the town is not doing that, and really a lot of it is about responding to that next order of government saying when we can do things. That's what I'm hearing?
Absolutely.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions on the COVID-19 scenario and information? Okay, hearing none, thank you. We're going to move into our next report on Northern Ontario Heritage Fund project applications. Mr. Skorczynski.
So the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation, or more commonly known as NOHFC, was established in 1988, and its mandate is to promote and stimulate economic development in Northern Ontario. NOHFC is an application-based fund whereby projects are submitted to determine their eligibility and then proceed through a rigorous review and approval process. The town currently has 2 projects that have been deemed eligible by NOHFC and approved to be submitted as Stage 2 applications. One is for Pebble Beach development. This project would see the capital development of the Pebble Beach area, which would include new infrastructure installation and increased accessibility. The town has applied for a combined $900,000 from NOHFC as well as FedNor. The second project currently before NOHFC is for a Brownfield Investment Action Plan, and this project will undertake site selection, related activities to attract new business development to the former mill site. The project is estimated at $100,000, and an amount of $50,000 has been applied for. As part of the NOHFC submission process, individual projects must have supporting resolutions from council. The municipal contribution for the Pebble Beach development project is $90,000 and is included in the 2020 capital budget. The municipal contribution for the Brownfield Investment Plan is $50,000, and this is included in the 2020 municipal operating budget. Council has 2 options: A, support the project applications to NOHFC, or B, do not support the applications. And your administration recommends option A, approving the attached resolution supporting the 2 project applications to the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund.
Okay, great. Thank you for that report. I have a motion here that council hereby accepts the attached report and recommendation on the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund project applications, and that the mayor and council of the town of Marathon support the application 8100536 Pebble Beach development application, as well as the town of Marathon commits to the contribution of $90,000 towards the eligible project costs in addition to any cost overages. This was moved by Councillor Valens, second by Councillor Debussy. Any questions?
Yes, I have one.
Councillor Debussy.
Given the, I'll say the state of the government right now, when is the timeline if we're eligible or if we're successful on both projects? What's the timeline for completion of the projects? Because this basic construction or development season is going to pretty well be over before anything is released from this COVID issue.
So with respect to the Pebble Beach project, our application process involves stages. 2020 would see the issue of a request for proposal, select the successful proponent, enter into a contract with that firm, and then develop the actual hard construction documents required for 2021. 2021 is when we would target to complete the actual construction, obviously taking into account we'll have to monitor the current pandemic situation. With NOHFC, they're very flexible in terms of the contracts once you have an approved project. So if there was a need to extend beyond 2021, there wouldn't be any issue in doing that from a construction or contractual perspective.
Anything else? No other questions? Okay, so as you know, in regards to budget, we discussed all this back in December and January. So it's a process part of the budget system. So moved by Councillor Vallon, second by Councillor Debuchy. I would assume all in favor. Any opposed? Thank you. Next up, we have a report on the golf course operation reopening plan. Mr. Skorczynski. Oh, no, sorry. I do have the second motion for the funding for the $50,000. Thank you for that. This was moved by Councillor Lake, second by Councillor Jingra. The council hereby accepts the attached report and recommendation on Northern Ontario Heritage Fund project applications, and that the Mayor and Council of the Town of Marathon support the application 8210381, Marathon Brownsfield Investment Action Plan Stage 2 application for the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund application, and further that the Town of Marathon commits to the required contribution of $50,000 or 50% of the total eligible project cost in addition to any cost overages. All in favor? No opposed? Any questions of that one? That was pretty straightforward as well.
I do. You know what? I do have one question, Your Worship.
Sure, Councillor Lake.
So obviously, when we did our strategic planning for the last probably 3 or 4 strategic plans, getting something back down at that harbor and at that mill site has been priority 1 in terms of economic and job creation. I know there was the provincial website that markets these. Is this that program, or is this independent of that marketing program?
So I wouldn't say it's independent. I would say that the two are going to work in partnership from an actual implementation perspective. So the program you're referring to is the Ontario Site Certified program. So that project is on hold given the current situation right now. But we do have an active application with that actual funding program. So that's a program where the Ontario government, once you're selected as being site certified, markets the site globally. So we're still part of that program. We need to submit our final application, and we'll do so once the guidelines around that reopen towards the end of the year when Ontario government staff are back to work in that specific ministry. This project that we've applied for is more directly focused on displaying Marathon's assets. Would give us the ability to undertake our own site selection activities as we saw fit.
That's excellent. I just think, you know what, it's so easy to lose track of the things that are most important to us, and that's why I value that strategic planning. And I know the mill site redevelopment has been top of mind at strat plan time all the time, so it's nice to see this going forward.
Yeah, and also, as you know, before COVID-19 hit, we had some opportunities to go forward with planning for that for this season, but obviously that had to be put on the back burner. So we'll continue to focus on the redevelopment of that site. We're working great partnerships with Valor right now with utilization of that, so it's getting us through this period, and we will definitely get the ball up and running and rolling as we go forward with the COVID-19 winding down, hopefully over the next month or 2. Any other questions? Okay. Up next, we have the report on the golf course operations reopening plan. Mr. Skorczynski.
So thank you, Your Worship. So on March 17th, the Ontario government ordered the closure of all indoor recreational facilities, and on March 30th announced the order closing all outdoor recreational facilities. Per Ontario Regulation 10420, these closures are in effect until May the 19th unless extended or revoked by the province. On May 4th, the Ontario government released a statement allowing scheduled maintenance and seasonal preparation to begin for golf courses. Given the current COVID-19 situation, administration has developed a draft plan as well as draft operating guidelines to ensure the safety of municipal staff as well as the golfing public while at Peninsula Golf Course. Highlights from our plan and the guidelines include tee time booking and 20-minute tee-off time intervals, no public walk-ons, contactless booking and payment options, starter services to ensure social distancing and tee time protocols, closure of the clubhouse except for washrooms, cart rentals with proper booking, additional sanitization and cleaning of all contact surfaces, and takeout food and beverages available. At this time, administration does not envision offering locker or club rental services for 2020. Once the province announces the health and safety guidelines for golf courses, as well as an allowable opening date in Ontario, administration will adjust the plans and guidelines for Peninsula Golf Course accordingly and provide this information to the public as well as the men's and ladies' clubs. At this time, it's not completely possible for administration to predict revenue or expense amounts for the 2020 season. As such, an estimation has been provided for in the 2020 municipal budget. So just a couple additional notes for council's information. Obviously, administration was being highly proactive in terms of being able to open the golf course. We know how important an activity it is for marathon. The guidelines that we've put in place, we've taken the cue from Saskatchewan and Manitoba and really utilized what they have in place because their courses are open right now. We do expect that Ontario will have its own set of guidelines that we believe will be similar to those other provinces, but we'll have to make the adjustments accordingly when we see those. From a membership perspective, we will be ready to go online with the selling of memberships as soon as the province gives us the go-ahead to be able to open our course. We're obviously not able to open tomorrow because of the weather that we've seen with the slow spring, but we are targeting the opening towards the end of May, and staff are actively preparing the course for that. In terms of the membership sales, they will be online through the town's website, and we will utilize a similar situation as to the purchase of bag tags, where you would purchase your membership online and it would then be delivered to your door by municipal staff. So with that, happy to answer any questions from council.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, we'll go with Councillor, I think Councillor Valance first.
Yeah, mine's quick. I just want to know how this is going to have an effect on the groups that use the golf course, if it is able to be up and functional. Any clarification on that would be nice. Thanks.
At this time, we don't have any information from Ontario with respect to groups and large gatherings. We have looked at what's taken place in Saskatchewan and Manitoba, and both of those provinces have eliminated things like tournaments and twilights. So we would expect that Ontario is going to follow something similar.
Anybody else?
I have a couple.
Councillor Lake?
So again, I'm not really a golfer, but I think I know a little bit about. I know lots of people love to use their golf carts, especially folks that might have difficulty walking the whole thing. Are we going to allow golfers to? I think traditionally they store their carts in a compound and take them out. Would that still be accessible in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, or is that not okay?
We believe that's going to be fine for Ontario. We fully intend to be able to offer the cart compound again to members that purchase a trail permit. There will be a trail permit required for 2020, and there will be different guidelines in terms of spacing and things like that. But again, we didn't want to jump the gun and provide information that hasn't come from Ontario. But certainly that is a service we are preparing to offer again, as we know there are a number of regular users of our course that utilize carts.
Thank you. And maybe just to follow up to that one is, so I'm not a golfer, but I love tennis. There are other outdoor recreation opportunities. I think about the basketball courts, the skate park, the tennis courts. What's Ontario doing, and what are we thinking of doing with some of those other kind of outdoor recreation opportunities?
So there hasn't been any announcement from the province with respect to those items. And when they're actually, if we model BC, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan, which are some of the first provinces to reopen their economy and recreation, all of those facilities are following in the stage 2 reopening in those provinces. So I would expect that, you would see that in Ontario as well. From our end, what we are preparing for is those are much higher contact surfaces. So we're preparing our guidelines from a sanitization perspective. So again, we'll need to take complete direction from the province as well as our local health unit, but we expect those areas to open up further down the road in 2020 in Ontario.
So just a quick comment
Okay,
on that,
thank you.
Councillor Lake. With BC alone, Kitsilano Park downtown, just along the ocean, over the weekend it was really, really, really busy. So you see pictures of it, and it's very, very evident that there is no social distancing going on in a lot of cases. You know that everybody that's hanging is family members in the same household. So they're already seeing problems with the opening up of things, and we will see that in Ontario too, and like every other province. So it's very, we have to be very cautious on how we go ahead and open those things up. Tennis courts, basketball courts are more areas where people will gather because you're having to join somebody. Golfing is an individual sport without the tournaments. You know, like if you don't have a twilight or a tournament, you can golf individually or with your partner under the same roof very comfortably without having any contact with anybody on the golf course. So that's an easy one. The other ones are really a little tougher, same with beaches. You'll see that, and you'll see more of that on the news. Does anybody else have any comments? Sorry, go ahead,
sorry,
Councillor.
and I appreciate that, but certainly when you start, you know, and I know you get this way more than I do, Your Worship, but is that frustration that, and it's what I think we're going to see, right, is that some things are allowed in stage one, some are in stage two, some are going to be longer, and there's just that, you know, because I'm a tennis player, I feel like, oh, of course, we can make tennis work in the same way that golf can work, but again, I understand, and I think it's important that the public know that lots of those decisions are coming out of either our health care system here making decisions or the province saying this is stage one, this is stage two.
Absolutely, and that's exactly the message we're relaying to the public, to continue to monitor the Town of Marathon's website as well as the provincial website in regards to the releases. And read the whole release rather than just the headline, because that's really where the meat of the story is, and we all know that, so thanks for that. Anybody else? Okay, thanks for that update. There was, members were asked for reports of boards and committees. There was nothing other than myself. We did have a NOMA board meeting held last week to discuss NOMA's process going forward. Obviously, we had to cancel our EGM, as you know, at the end of April. We are canceling the fall. We are looking at changing it to a fall session. We're canceling that completely. We're not doing a online or a virtual meeting. We're just going to cancel everything and go right through till 2021. That will take place in Thunder Bay because we felt that to keep the schedule going forward, we would be going typically to Thunder Bay, but because Fort Frances missed out on the EGM in April, we talked a bit about that. No, it'll be Thunder Bay, Kenora, Fort Frances, Thunder Bay. So that's how the process will look for the next 4 years if everything gets back to the real world. AMO, as you know, through NOMA, has canceled their AMO conference in Ottawa in August, but it will be a virtual conference, so something they're planning and they're working on right now. That will take place in August. So we'll discuss that going forward in regards to registration of that. It's going to be probably a day and a half with the same scenario set up, but all virtual, whether you'll be sitting in your living room or your office or wherever that might be and participating in that. There'll still be a registration fee of, I think, $600. So NOMA talked a bit about that, and obviously me as your rep for NOMA, I will be attending the AMO conference virtually. Talked a bit about the DSAB and AMO scenario in regards to the OPP board structure being forwarded from boards locally to DSAB. There was a lot of debate on that. NOMA felt that it was more appropriate for the local boards to respond. So your board here in Marathon has responded to not participate in a DSAB-run board for the police services rather than municipal, and have DSAB maybe participate in the actual community safety plans aspect of that. Talked a bit about the leagues, the separate leagues, the Kenora, Rainy River, and the Thunder Bay District Leagues and their processes. The Thunder Bay District League is still looking at October, but we're probably going to cancel it based on information going forward. But we'll do that in our June meeting. But for now, we just asked our executive director to look into the booking of a hotel, and all the speakers are lined up that were there for the spring conference for NOMA as well as Thunder Bay District, but we will see what that looks like going forward. Probably canceling as well. And then, of course, give everybody the opportunity to speak on COVID-19 situations within their communities. And, of course, we know to the west of Thunder Bay, and Thunder Bay there's been cases, not so much to the east of Thunder Bay with the exception of Nipigon. So there was more cases going that way than we have seen. So we all discussed about the impacts it had in our communities. Obviously, we'll see the unfolding as you heard from our CEO as well, what the economic opportunities are and what the economic impacts are of each one of our smaller communities with the small business owners struggling. Other than that, it was a lot of talk just around the COVID and how do we get back to normalcy. The league is struggling because we're not having the opportunity to meet with government as well, other than virtually. So a lot of business, like everything, has been just put on hold, as well as your associations. So if there's any questions, I'll be great to answer. Hearing any? Good. Thank you. We have a briefing note on the budget 2020, and Mr. Skorczynski, quick highlight on that.
Thanks, Your Worship. So I just wanted to provide an update to council and the public with respect to our budget, municipal budget for 2020. So on April the 14th, approximately a month ago, administration provided council with an update on the status and the development of the 2020 municipal budget. Since that time, administration has been working diligently to finalize a complete draft for 2020, and we continue to do so. The proper public notice to adopt the 2020 municipal budget has been provided. That would have been last week, and administration will be in a position to present a full budget to council on May the 25th, later this month. Administration is recommending that a final public review of the budget take place at 12 p.m. on May the 25th, obviously virtually. The public will be able to view this through Facebook Live and Shaw Channel 5. The regular meeting of council would then take place immediately following the budget review, with the adoption of the 2020 budget presented for approval at that time.
Thank you for that. Any questions to that report? So we'll have a discussion as noted on the 25th of May. Thank you. Up next, I have a motion here from Township of Armagh to preparing the resolution regarding the connectivity of rural Ontario. The motion was presented and approved by, moved by Councillor Zingra, second by Councillor League, that Council hereby supports the resolution received from the Township of Armagh preparing pertaining to the resolution regarding the high-speed internet connectivity in rural Ontario, and further that a copy of this motion be forwarded to individuals listed on the originating resolution. Is there any questions or comments on that motion and that resolution from Armagh? Hearing none? I think we all agree that we need to have more connectivity, and we're seeing that, and specifically in my NOMA meeting that we took place in, we couldn't do an actual Microsoft Teams event because a lot of the connectivity in some of the rural parts of the western part of the province, the Kenora, specific and Rainy River areas, were not able to pick up that connectivity. So there is, you can see the impact it still is having, even with our small rural communities within our region. So that was moved by Councillor Zingra, second by Councillor Lake. All in favor? It's carried. No opposing. Thank you. Okay, any other comments or questions before we close this meeting off at 12:30? Just want to make one public notice, of course, as we say within the community, and any messages we're relaying out there, please visit the Town of Marathon's website. It gives you all the updated and relevant news that's been passed to the community from your administration and council and your emergency management control team, as well as the provincial website, which gives you all the updates from the province and gives you every bit of information you might need in regards to the COVID-19 situation going forward. There is still a fire ban on. I want to make sure that everybody in the community understands it's a safety thing, both for our firefighters as well as the area around us. There's been no rain. We've had no rain pretty well all spring. We still have snow in the bush for sure, but there's no rain. The bush is very dry. There's 36 fire districts in Ontario. There's still a ban in all 36 fire districts. So please be patient. We'd like to get out and have a fire. All of us would enjoy that as well, but there's still a fire ban in our community as well as the 36 districts. So with that being said, please continue to focus on social distancing and wash your hands regularly. Thank you. And we move by Councillor DeBouche, second by Councillor Zingrod, that we now adjourn at the hour of 12:30 p.m. Thank you and have a good day.